They say that we're the small Satan, that the United States is the great Satan. And I suppose Europe, I don't want you to be offended, you're the sort of a middle-sized Satan. All of these have to be dominated, obliterated, terrorized, and they're actually true to their word.
When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about the Middle East process here in relation to the Palestinians. Prime Minister, there was a horrific murder of the Fogel family last week, the details of which are chilling to read. What was your reaction to that, and where are you with the investigation into the perpetrators?
Well, this was horrific. It was savagery. I mean, several Palestinian terrorists came into a home of this Jewish family in the West Bank. They stabbed a 3-month-old baby girl in the heart, cut her throat. They stabbed her 4-year-old brother in the heart, cut him in the throat. They stabbed the father with another child and stabbed the mother and left them die in their blood. And then I visited the family, and you saw the 12-year-old girl, a sister, who came home and saw this unbelievable massacre. So obviously the first response is sheer horror. And my second response was to send a message to the settlers to contain their rage and not respond, because we'd have a cycle of reprisals. So I asked them not to take the law in their own hands, not to have vigilante actions, because this could generate a bloodbath. I thought that was important to stop that, but we're now looking for the killers. We'll find them.
There was, to put it mildly, a raised eyebrow collectively around the world, first at the horrifying nature of this attack, but secondly at your response. The premise of they murder, we build. You ordered the building of 500 more building settlements. It's a strange moral equivalence, Prime Minister. I mean, part of the problem that you face now in Israel is perception around the world. Your PR is not good, as you know. When people heard about what happened, I think the international community completely on your side, and the people of Israel. When they see you immediately ordering more settlements, I'm sure you did it to calm down the people, as you say, a lot of that sympathy erodes. People think, come on, there's got to be a better way of responding to this kind of thing than doing that.
Well, I wanted to send 3 messages. The first one I told you about, that is a message of restraint to the settlers. The second is a message to the terrorists. And I was telling them, I know you think you're going to uproot us with this savagery, with violence, with terror. You're not going to uproot us. So you kill us, you want to drive us into the sea, that's not going to happen. The only way we'll have a settlement is through peaceful negotiations. So you kill, we'll build, but coincidentally I chose to build in the large populated areas that are going to stay in Israel anyway. And not 500 new settlements, but 500 apartments, which is very different. And third, I wanted to send a message to the international community. And I said to the international community that rushes to condemn Israel for every building that is built. You know, a Jew builds an apartment in the Jewish homeland. What a terrible crime. But they seldom go and condemn this kind of savagery without any ands, ifs, and buts. And I wanted that condemnation. I was glad to see.
But is that true?
I was glad to see some.
Is that true? I mean, does the international community really not just condemn that kind of outrage out of hand? Because I read that they did. And the point about the settlements is surely that you are trying to get a peace process that works. You're trying to get to some settlement. You know, the Middle East Quartet only yesterday said they've almost given up hope that peace is achievable at the moment. You were the first Prime Minister of Israel to be born after 48. You have a key position in history here. You've been Prime Minister before. You didn't get the peace process through then. You've got another chance now. Doesn't part of you, Benjamin Netanyahu, look at yourself and think, I want to be the guy that makes this happen, not the guy that didn't make it happen?
7 prime ministers have tried to get peace with the Palestinians since the peace process began in Oslo in 1993. Some of them made extraordinarily generous concessions, and it didn't work because the Palestinians, first under Arafat and now under Abu Mazen, have not picked it up. They refused to go the distance and actually recognize the Jewish state and make the compromises that are required from both sides. The entire world is focusing on the compromises that are necessary from Israel's side. And I'm prepared to make a lot of those compromises for peace. But they're not focusing on the fact that the Palestinians refuse to make the necessary compromises that are required on their side for peace. And the simplest thing to do, you know, here you're talking about moving the peace process forward. What do you think is the best way to arrive at a negotiated settlement?
Honestly, what do I think?
Yeah.
When Sadat came to Jerusalem, bearing concessions, it worked. Why don't you go to Ramallah and be the big guy here? Why don't you go and take concessions, which are perhaps more than you're prepared to give right now, and say, I'm calling the bluff here, not just of the Palestinians, but of the international community? Because I'll tell you what would happen. The international community is desperate for this to work. They would come with you. And yes, there would be, of course, problems. Yes, there would be more outrages. Everybody knows that. But in the end, somebody has to be the big guy here, and that could be you, couldn't it?
I'm pretty big.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
You are. When we come back from the break, I want to talk to you more about this peace process.
This is where you find.
You want to make peace? Suggested the simplest.
Doesn't history need people to be courageous?
Yes, it does. But peace requires two to tango. And what I said, suggested the simplest thing, is exactly what you're saying. I said to Abu Mazen, flying around in the world, the Palestinian president, I said, don't fly around the world. You want to make peace? Ramallah, where you sit, is 10 minutes away from Jerusalem, where we're sitting right now. I'm willing to come to you. You can come here. Let's sit down, shut the room, you know, basically, and sit down until smoke comes out. That's the way you make peace. That's how we made peace with Egypt. That's how we made peace with Jordan.
Why isn't it happening?
Because I think that Palestinian society is split into two. Those who are openly calling for Israel's destruction, like Hamas, and those who are not calling openly for Israel's destruction, but refuse to confront those who do. And that's the Palestinian Authority. I think they're timid. I think they're afraid to actually stand up to these killers. I think it's possible to achieve that peace. I'll tell you what, I've always wanted it, because I went through war. I went through war in Egypt. I nearly drowned in the Suez Canal in a firefight during the War of Attrition.
You were shot yourself.
Yeah, I was shot rescuing a hijacker.
So you know the reality of war.
I've lost...
They always say military people that have been through that kind of thing, who've seen friends, colleagues get killed, they understand better than most the need to bring peace.
Not only understand, but cherish it. I mean, I nearly died several times in firefights. I had a brother lost in a battle. I had many friends lost. I mean, one of the experience that I remember was as an 18-year-old soldier, just a few short weeks after entering the Army, holding a friend who died in my arms. You don't want war. We want peace more than any other people. We pray for peace, yearn for peace, dream about peace. I want to make sure that the peace holds. And one of the things that I've said, in this part of the world, the only peace that would hold is a peace you can defend. So I'm willing to make that kind of peace, a peace with security.
What's the concession you're prepared to make this happen? Because you know if you don't make one, if you don't do something dramatic here, nothing's going to happen. You'll go down as a guy who was Prime Minister twice, and it never happened. And I don't think that's a legacy you really want, is it? Why would you want that legacy?
Well, the legacy I want is that I hope secure the life of the Jewish state and its future. We did act precipitously. We walked out of Gaza. We uprooted. Talk about concessions. We uprooted 10,000 Israelis out of Gaza, just eliminated the settlements that were supposed to be the obstacle to peace. We walked out, Iran walked in. We didn't get peace. We walked out of Lebanon, every last inch. We walked out, Iran walked in. Now they say, just walk out of the West Bank. Make the concession. Come on, do it again, a third time. So I would say the first condition of peace will make concessions, obviously. We'll have to make territorial